Exceptions was basically a pilot project for my AI vocal adventures, and while I was just trying my best to make things work, it didn't even really occur to me that I should maybe record the sessions. Fast forward to Pressure, which is the first song of this batch, which I recorded basically from start to finish. My main focus in this format is going to be on the development of the songs, so storytelling basically, but we'll also stop and try to cover some of the technical executions of certain production decisions. The idea of the instrumental started out with a different vocal. It's a song I wrote, or maybe I should say an a cappella I made, but so it's a song I wrote somewhere in between Exceptions and Pressure. Long story short, I eventually discarded this vocal, but still I developed a fair bit of the instrumental idea around it. My instrumental idea started with a simple but catchy bassline pattern. This preset I saved out not that long ago from a totally different context. Initially I was just experimenting with layering and modulating the various filters without a real purpose, but eventually I found the right sound, which was pretty close to the final state of the sound already. I tested some sustained pad chords too, but quickly decided against these. Generally speaking, I like to try these out, but here I just felt that this feels too out of character compared to the other elements and to the rhythmic foundation. The main thing which makes the melody work here is this filter automation. Without these little accents, the flow would immediately collapse. Things like this are what I usually mean when I talk about the same but different principle in music production. It means that to avoid too much complexity, the source should remain the same, but at the same time, it shouldn't ever remain static. There should be always some kind of movement to make things interesting. Adding little accents like this in between the actual rhythm palette is one of my favorite production moves in general. It's an easy way to add movement when otherwise a pattern would feel a little bit too repetitive. Technically, these in-between notes should be a little bit quieter and a little less intense than the regular bass and or melody notes. And yeah, this is how it sounded roughly an hour into my first session. Here the idea was already ready to go in terms of ready to start to arrange it, but since I already decided in my mind that the vocals should be replaced, I set this project aside for the next day. On that day I wrote the lyrics of Pressure, and feeding it into Suno got me 3 decent options out of, well, roughly 30 or 40 not as great options. The one labeled P3 here is the one which ended up as the eventual winner. I tried out if maybe a different progression would work better, or if maybe a different instrumental direction in general would be even better, but after a while I'll settle with my initial ideas and just went from there. At this point it was time to refeed that P3 variation into Suno and get a bunch of takes of the same melody. In case you haven't yet watched my video about my AI a cappella method, what I needed to do here is basically to generate lots of variations of the same vocal melody, which I can then convert and comp into a uniform vocal using a voice changer. After I downloaded the exports, I reduced the length of the clips to the length of the useful vocal parts, and this is because most voice changer services charge credits based on time, and obviously I wanted to stay within my monthly credit limits. After getting the converted results back, it was time to comp the vocal into a coherent single unit. The goal here is just to puzzle out the phrases from the best sounding or the most intelligible takes in each section.
You stood there silent. Something was broken.
After the lead vocal was good to go, I dropped the other generated a cappella ideas also into the project. These are always extremely useful to fill out some empty parts, either by using them as an extension of the lead vocal or maybe positioning them as ad-libs. In the case of this song, these additional generations are the backbone of the drop theme. The main hook, which starts right on the downbeat where the vocal plays in this stack and also does this la 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 thing. Basically this is all due to just me stacking and playing around with these various generations on top of each other. Yeah, as a side note, please just ignore the resonances for now. They are a little excessive, which I haven't yet addressed while producing. Here I'm layering one of the Suno generations under the cleaned and comped vocal. This particular part I took out from under the first verse, but it's just the idea that matters here to show how I use various Suno generations as doubles, essentially.
Something was broken. I knew it deep down. The air was frozen.
I came up with this pause play thing at the second drop relatively early in the process. Of course, lots of refinements were done to it later, but the flow was already pretty much how I had it in mind. This is a crucial procedure, not just for AI vocals, but in general. I'm slightly adjusting the acapella timing to snap everything a bit closer to the grid. Sometimes a little off-gridness can be used as an artistic tool, but generally speaking, when the vocal isn't aligned perfectly, it usually sounds like a mistake. In this track, a lot of the movement comes from these lead effects. Some reverses, some delays, some reverbs. The pitching contour effect was also made like this by automating the Valhalla Supermassive. Here I'm simply developing / arranging and then eventually printing the effects into audio. At this point it was time to properly edit and adjust everything about them manually until they were sounding perfect. The goal with these types of effects is again to achieve the same but not the same kind of effect and, well, basically to showcase my technical ideas and abilities, I guess. And yeah, this is pretty much the final state of the effects already. The breakdowns needed a little more love at this point because the drops just felt overdeveloped compared to them. Here I'm adding some Atmos backing to fill out the space a bit more.
You stood there silent. Something was broken.
It's always a delicate balancing act to keep the breakdowns interesting, but at the same time, of course, they shouldn't be as intense as the drops. My acapella chain consists of a delay, a reverb, and another reverb. I'll expand on my vocal chain processing techniques in a separate video. At this point, all that was left to be able to call the production phase complete is to puzzle out the previously mentioned Suno adlibs and apply some effects to them. These I usually treat separately from the lead vocals in terms of effects, and everything's then routed to a separate bus. The sidechaining decisions depend on the nature of the song. Sometimes I automate just one global sidechain plugin over all vocals, which is definitely the most convenient solution, but in other cases I automate the channels separately, which is obviously more work, but also offers more customization options. So yeah, this just depends on the song. Mixing wise, the song needed quite a few sessions of brightening up everything and also pretty aggressive resonance control, especially on the vocals. During producing, it's very easy to get lost in the little details, but after taking a few days off from the song, I was able to focus on the big picture again and yeah, just got it ready to be released. Hope you enjoyed the song as much as I enjoyed working on it. Thanks for watching.